Hi, my name is Siti Aisyah binti Ahmad. I want to present about my research paper, which is financial planning awareness among B14 residents during COVID-19 pandemics. I study in Kuala Lumpur. Okay, firstly for the introduction, as we know, since 2020, our country has been surprised with the new outbreak of virus, which is COVID-19. Okay. After the outbreaks, the government tends to implement the movement control order, which is MCO, and during the MCO, the government already minimized the movement either in individual or in economic, which is certain sectors in Malaysia have been closed down for a few months, which leads towards decrement in economic development. Apart from that, due to the MCO, the increment of unemployment rates in Malaysia already increased to 4.8% during the time of COVID, which is this because many of Malaysian people, they tends to lose the jobs, and some of them even this is because of the companies wants to minimize the liability of the company. They tends to terminate some of the workers during the pandemic, and then some of them they only pay the half of the salary to the employees. Okay, for the problem statement, the issue arises when the government imposed the MCO, movement control order, and then the company tends to terminate or cut off half of their employees' salary, which is make the employees lost their main income. The problem arises when the employees, especially for the B14 resident, they lost the jobs and their salary, but at the same time they need to cope with their current expenses. The expenses of them, the current expenses is still maintained, but the income, but they already lose the income. So the main problem here is that how they want to survive or how they want to manage their financial planning according to the current situation, while adapt with pandemic in Kuala Lumpur. Because as we know, Kuala Lumpur is one of the biggest city in Malaysia and have one highest living cost living, which can impact on the B14 residents. Okay, for the second problem is that during the MCO, the government, even the public institution, they impose a few incentives that can help the B14 resident especially. Okay, for example, like the BPN or the IELTS study. But the problem was when the resident, the B14 residents, they cannot afford to use the incentive accordingly, and they tend to use the money for unuseful expenses. For example, they can use the money to for their daily life, their daily expenses like electric bill, car insurance, and so on. But instead of that, they're using the money to buy something that they don't even need, like for the research question of this paper, is the first one is to examine the awareness of financial planning among B40 resident the second one is to investigate the benefit of incentive or in financial planning among B40, which means that is the incentive by the government is really really helpful for these groups of B40 residents. Does they use the incentive wisely, or does the incentive itself doesn't give any impact on them? The last one is to examine the impact of pandemic among B40 residents. Okay, this is to investigate either the COVID situation impact on the B40 residents' jobs or salary. Maybe some of them have lost jobs, or maybe some of them were given short leave without payment. Okay, for the awareness of financial planning helps the B40 resident during pandemic, which is the financial planning itself can give a beneficial effect on the B40 resident. Does it helpful for them, or it just doesn't give them any change? Okay, the second one is what is the benefit of the incentive to financial planning? Okay, we want to know how the incentive from the government or the public institution can give impact on their financial planning, either it is helpful or not. Okay, the last one is what is the impact of pandemic among the B40 resident. The next one is the operational terms of that being used in this research. The first one is the COVID-19. Okay, the COVID-19 is a subcell from the SARS-CoV-2, which is occurred in Wuhan, China for the first time, and then the virus get spread outside the China at the early of 2020. Okay, before it was known as COVID-19, as we know now, it was known as novel coronavirus pneumonia, NCP, which is after that being named COVID-19. Okay, the second one is awareness. Awareness is an ability to know some things or to understand some things that exist in a certain situation. The next one is financial planning. Financial planning is a process that we need to estimate the total amount of money that we need for our daily expenses. Either is daily, monthly, or yearly. Okay, the next one is incentive. Incentive is something that have tendency to incite or to determine and can be known as a reward. The last one is B40. B40 is one of the groups, the level income groups in Malaysia, which is we have three type of group. B40, which is bottom 40, and then we have M40, the middle class, and T20. Okay, the word if B40 is stand for the bottom 40, which is indicates to the total household with a total income of 4,600 and 4,360 and above. For the scope of study, okay, the research was located in Kuala Lumpur, and the respondent for the research is among the B40 residents that live in Kuala Lumpur, which have been divided into 4 categories. Which the first one is level income of 0 to 1,000 ringgit. The second one is 1,001 to 2,000 ringgit, and the third group is 2,000 ringgit until 3,000 ringgit, and the last one is 3,000 until 4,000 ringgit. The significance of the study is that to investigate the level of awareness of financial planning among B40 in Kuala Lumpur, as in pandemic with limited sources like limited income, but with the same expenses before the pandemic occurred. for the chapter 2, which literature review, the first one is the financial planning awareness. Based on Pratama, the financial planning awareness in the term of household is a planning and record daily finance based on the income earns is the purpose of the financial plan. The second one is from J 2017. Even though the governments and the private sector helps with the lack of awareness, the help with the burden, but with the lack of awareness in financial planning make the funding unworthy, which is even though the government and the public institution give helps towards the B40 or others groups level income group, but if the society itself doesn't have the awareness in the financial planning, the incentive will become unhelpful. The second one is a pandemic, which in the bracket COVID-19. Okay, it's due to the COVID-19 the pandemic. Certain operation needs to be shut down, which is lead to the business disruption in a variety of industries like tourism, hotels, and factories due to the pandemic. Okay. This will cause the fluctuation in the COVID curve case, which is the government tends to open the sector, the industry, when the curve decline, but as the curve started to increase once again, the government tends to shut down the industry once again. But because of this, because of the COVID-19 itself, and the fluctuation in the curve, the government cannot fully can't open the industry fully, because they worry that the COVID change will spread. The next one is incentive. As we know, there's a few type of incentive were given to the society, the B40 especially, either from the government or the public institution. Okay, the government have come with a few of incentive to help to lessen the burden of the B40 residents. Which is the first one is IELTS study, which is IELTS study is like the withdrawal of money from the KWSP accounts. But right now, the governments impose a new incentive, which is iCitra, the same which is the KWSP account holders. They were able to withdraw their money, but they need to leave certain amounts based on the accounts balance. Okay, the next one is BPN. BPN, we have a few phase of BPN, which is the second phase and the second and the first and the second phase. Okay, the first phase, the government give 5,500 for the B40 residents. For the second one is 450 ringgit, which is were given in 2 times of payment. And the latest one, the government give 100 ringgit to the individual B40 residents in order to help them to survive during the MCO phase 3. Okay, next one is the Wage Subsidy Program, WSP, which is this one is implement to the employees. If the employees can't able to pay the money for the workers, then they can apply for this SIM, which is the government will give 600 ringgit to the workers that the company were unable to pay. Okay, apart from that, even the BNM itself, the Bank Negara Malaysia, they impose a moratorium based on the certain income level. For the next one is the research framework. As you can see, the research framework, the first one is the financial planning, and it was divided into the 3 categories, which are awareness, pandemic, and the incentive. Okay, as you can see the arrow, these three, awareness, pandemic, and the incentive, can affect the B40 residents during this pandemic. In chapter 3, we will discuss about the methodology that will be used in this study in order to obtain the information and the data. Okay, the first one is the research design. Okay, in the research design, we will use the descriptive research that will help to study a phenomenon that happen in a current situation of a groups or organization of people. Okay, for this descriptive research, as we know, for this current situation is the pandemic itself, and the group of people is the B40 residents. Okay, based on the descriptive research, we will use the cross-sectional, which is the data will be collected in a particular time, which during this time of COVID, at once, and to get the answer of the research question. We also will use the qualitative approach, which is interview of the respondents from the B40 residents. Okay. The next one is the data collection methods. Okay, in this research, we use the primary data collection is directly from the researcher itself, like interview, experiment, and surveys. Okay, apart from that, we also use the secondary data collection, like we collect the information from the trusted sources like official websites, journals, and articles. Okay. The next one is the questionnaire. Okay, for the questionnaire, there will be 3 sections of the questionnaire, which is the first section of the question will highlight the awareness of financial planning in the B40 residents. Okay, the second section of the questionnaire will highlight the issue of how the incentive from the government or from the government helps the financial planning, helps the B40 resident regarding their financial planning. Okay, on the last session, we will discuss on how the pandemic itself give the effect affected the B residents' life. In chapter 4, we will discuss on the result that we obtained from the interview according to the method that we used in chapter 3. Okay, for the first section, which is indicates the how the financial planning awareness helps the B40 residents during the pandemic. Okay, based on the result, we have distinguished that the respondents they were able to define the financial planning based on their own words, and they were able to identify the benefit of or the advantages of the financial planning, where if they implement it into their daily life. Okay, apart from that, they were also aware that financial planning play the main roles in their daily life in order to manage their expenses during this COVID. Okay, for the second section, we can see that we want to identify either the incentive itself can give benefit, or does the incentive helps the financial planning of the B40 residents. Okay, the majority of the respondents were able to use the incentive wisely. However, the second respondent, he does aware of the incentive given by the government, but he was unable to use it to help the burden of his expenses. Okay, but the others respondent, they were able to use the incentive, and they think that the incentive did give them some helps, even though it's just in a short time periods, and sometimes they only get one of payment incentive, like the incentive itself doesn't stay in a long term, but it does help them to cope with their problem regarding their financial planning. Okay, based on the section 3, which is does the pandemic itself affecting the B40 residents? Okay, based on the data given by the respondent, okay, the first respondent and the second respondent just get affected either from the job's scope or their current salary. Okay, based on respondent 2, he said that his current basic, before the pandemic, he get pay based on his current basic, which is 1,400. But during the pandemic, the company tends to pay him based on his working hours. But in the same time, his working hours become decreased, because the company want to decrease the liability. Okay, but however, respondent 3 and respondent 4, they claims that the pandemic does give effect on their jobs, but their salaries still remain the same, which is indicates that the company still pay them their basic same as before the COVID occurred. Okay, lastly, in chapter 5, okay, for the recommendation in chapter 5, the first one, I recommend that the financial institution itself, they should make a campaign in order to increase or to create the awareness in financial planning among the B40 resident, because the B40 resident, they might think that, the financial planning only for the highest level of income that supposed to apply it, but they don't know that the financial planning is for everybody, and it can be implied by anyone. Okay, the second is the financial planning, they should be implemented since a young age, because sometimes doing financial planning itself, it will become a habit in our life if we keep repeating the same thing at a young age, because in a young age, it like a suitable age to implement the good things. Okay, the next one is the next one is if the resident itself they got affected by the COVID, the job is affected, and they have to depends on the incentive, but actually they can try to find other jobs, like as we know nowadays during the MCO, there's many people that try to make online business. And the next one is that there is some sector that doesn't being affected, like the food industry. They still remain the same. Okay, so the affected groups. Okay, which one is getting impact of the COVID, they could find a part. They could make a side income, okay, or like riders, or they can even try to sell some things that people will buy, even though it was a COVID, it was a pandemic. Okay, the next one is the company. The company itself should aware that government also, a part of helping the B40 resident, the government also impose the incentive to the company in order to helps the company to lessen their burden because of the closed sector. Okay, because this is because sometimes the B40 residents, they got affected because of the company cannot afford to pay the salary in a long term, because we don't know when the COVID will end and when the MCO will end. But so the company should aware that the government also have some incentive. The government also proposed some helps that could help the company to lessen the burden in order to pay the employees salary. Okay, for the limitation of the study, okay, as we know, the COVID-19 issue is like a new issue arise since 2020. So we only have limited information due to the COVID itself, and because of the limited information of the COVID, and we cannot for the limitation of the study. Okay, because of the COVID-19 itself is a new issue, it's a new problem that arise since 2020. So we have a limited resource of information that we could get from the journal or book. Okay, we do have some research in financial planning, but the research, the study regarding the financial planning itself doesn't include how to survive during the pandemic. Okay, the last one is the conclusion. Okay, in conclusion, the researcher conduct the study of financial planning awareness among B40 residents is to identify either they aware or not of the financial planning. Is the financial planning itself becomes the importance role that in their life during this COVID-19. Okay. When the pandemic occur, we can see and we can observe, okay, on how the importance of the financial planning, not only for the B40 resident but also all groups of income level. Okay, this is because if we were unable to manage our financial during this COVID-19, but it may disturb. If we were unable to cope with our financial planning, we were unable to manage our financial planning in the future, especially during a pandemic, which is we don't even know how the pandemic will end. So this may affected our future, our life, because we may lose the income to manage our expenses if we cannot distinguish which one is important, and which one we should give a priority first during pandemic. Okay, I think that's all from me. Thank you.